people have talked about, when we actually were talking to the analysts, on a valuation basis, so you're at a pretty big multiple to even projected revenues for
that's actually not true. I would actually say it's the opposite. Look, we have a customer backlog of more than 600 people. It's more than $80 million of collected deposits already. These are customers from 60+ countries of the world. There's another people, about 2,500 more people have expressed interest in becoming customers. That's the first 2 or 3 years of the business. And what the team has built, and this is what was amazing to me, is a business that actually has software-like margins. This thing looks like a software business under the hood, even though it's flying people to space. So this is, I think, actually a really compelling risk-reward. I mean, even taking a general step back, I think I've had a really good track record right now of being a little bit ahead of some big trends, whether it was a transition to Amazon, whether it was backing Bitcoin, things like Slack. And what I'll tell you is I generally don't put my own principal capital on the table unless I think there's a really compelling risk reward, and I'm doing that here.
You sounded like almost like you were talking about Tesla in terms of customers putting down deposits for a product that's not yet commercially available, and eventually promising these customers down the road that they will be able to take that trip into space.
It's a fantastic example. You have to remember when Tesla went public, it was I think a $2 billion market cap. It's something that's now 10x'd in 10 years. If we are lucky to have the same trajectory and the same customer love, I think that we would all look back and say we've done something absolutely fantastic in human technology.
Yeah. I mean, since we put 2 spaceships into space earlier this year and made 5 new astronauts, the first astronaut that's been made in America's soil since 2009. We've had 2,500 people asked to sign up. So I think that the market is enormous. I mean, and the amount of people who'd love to go to space is enormous. And once we've got a lot of spaceships, the float will hopefully enable us to be able to build a lot of spaceships. The price will start coming down, and that will increase the market even more.
Yeah, I mean, aviation began in a similar way, right? It was seen as extremely risky, and it was enthusiasts, and then it was wealthy people wanting to go for a joyride, and then it became a necessity. How long before spaceflight tracks something similar to that?
Well, you're absolutely right. In the 1920s, it cost the equivalent of $250,000 to cross the Atlantic in a plane, and now a lot of people are able to travel across the Atlantic in an aeroplane. I think we can do it a lot quicker than aviation did it. 10 years from now, we should see quite a dramatic decrease in our prices. And every 50,000 sounds big figures, but every 50,000 down, it expands the market.
$50,000 down in the price.
Yeah. Let's say the market in the world for $300,000 is 1.5 million people. Once you start coming down, the market just increases.
Can you drop me off in Japan? I mean, can this be part of? Yeah.
Well, not today, but this is another reason why I thought this was so interesting. Is that what Richard's team has built are technologies that eventually can be used in a hypersonic airplane. So what does that mean? That means if you're used to a 10-hour flight from Los Angeles to Tokyo or Los Angeles to Beijing, that becomes less than 2 hours. Now, that alone, if you look at the ticketing revenue for that in the airlines, that's $300 billion of revenue that should vaporize, because why would you not travel through a Virgin experience that's basically 1/5 the time?
How far out is that? How far out is the first commercial flight for tourists to space? I think, how far out is profitability?
So profitability is projected right now in August of 2021, and that's where full year profitability will be. We're going to be starting commercial operations within a year from now, which is really exciting. In terms of the first question, in terms of how can we get to hypersonic flight, that's a 5 to 10 year project. But the good news is by building this and being in this business, which is incredibly amazing, we get a free option to build this next business, which is another huge step forward for humankind if you can do that in terms of transportation.
We're fortunate that we're the only spaceship company that whose spaceship is shaped like an aeroplane. Our rival spaceship companies all have giant rockets which take off. So as far as going to point in the future, we are quite a big step ahead.